San Francisco, California, December 2024. The city had changed. Sleeker buildings replaced old cafes. New tech startups filled blocks that once housed bookshops and smoky jazz bars. But some shadows lingered, whispers that refused to die. Among them, the name Zodiac still sent chills down spines. Detective Rachel Foster wasn't looking to chase ghosts. At 42, she'd earned her place among the elite. Known for her precision and unshakable instincts, she was the kind of cop who didn't waste time on urban legends. But when a letter landed on her desk, a single page, handwritten with eerie familiarity, she froze. The symbol, that damned symbol, a circle with a cross. Zodiac. For a moment, everything blurred. The hum of the station, the distant radio chatter. She remembered reading about the Zodiac Killer as a child, hiding under her blankets with a flashlight and a worn-out paperback her mother had warned her not to read. Those unsolved crimes had haunted California's history. The killer had vanished in the 1970s, leaving taunting letters, cryptograms, and a trail of brutal murders. But this letter was postmarked 3 days ago. Rachel sat alone in the evidence room, gloved hands trembling slightly as she unfolded the paper again. Hello again, San Francisco. You thought I was dead. I've simply been waiting, watching. The hunt was always the fun part. Let's play another game. It was signed with the same cryptic symbol. Rachel's instinct screamed. Hoax? Maybe. But the handwriting, the phrasing, it matched archived letters too well to ignore. She made the call to George Keller, the retired criminal profiler who had spent his life chasing ghosts. A recluse now, George rarely answered calls. But when he heard the words, Zodiac Letter, he didn't hesitate. George was a shell of the man he used to be. His hair white, hands unsteady, eyes sunken from decades of obsession. But as Rachel laid the letter in front of him, something lit up behind his tired gaze. This isn't a copycat, he whispered. This is him. Rachel didn't want to believe it. The Zodiac Killer would be in his 80s now. Yet the paper told another story. Together, they began decoding the letter. George noticed something odd. The way the Z was drawn, almost trembling, yet deliberate. It wasn't age. It was control, restraint. The killer was mocking them again. Hidden in the letter was a cipher, different from previous ones but clearly echoing the Zodiac style. It took 2 days for sleepless cups of coffee and a whiteboard covered in numbers before they cracked it. I never left. You just stopped looking. Rachel felt cold. George pulled out an old, yellowed folder from his archives, labeled The Last Call. 1974, he said. A young woman named Linda Shaw disappeared from Oakland. Never found. Last person she spoke to described hearing strange breathing on the line before it went dead. No link to Zodiac? Rachel asked. Back then, no. But we always suspected. Rachel reopened the case. Linda's last known location? Payphone outside a diner. That diner had closed in the late 90s, but the phone booth? Still standing and used. The next morning, Rachel drove out. The booth was covered in grime, cracked, almost forgotten by time. But then her eye caught something etched faintly in the glass, that same symbol. She stepped back. This wasn't nostalgia. It was a trail. George had held on to everything, even a reel-to-reel tape from a Zodiac call to the police, dated 1969. With modern audio tools, they enhanced it. The voice was hollow, distorted by age and static. But as Rachel listened, she caught something new. A background hum. Rhythmic, she isolated it. A train whistle. A specific whistle pattern used only on the Bay Area Northern Line. A line decommissioned in 1975. Why would he call from there? Rachel asked. To lure us, George replied. But maybe he never left the area. Maybe he lived near that track. Digging into land records, they found a cluster of homes built in the early 70s, adjacent to the track. One name stood out, Francis Doyle. No criminal record. Paid in cash. Reclusive. Lived alone. Too clean. Rachel and George approached the house cautiously. It sat on the edge of a fog-covered hill, worn but maintained. No security cameras. No neighbors nearby, just silence. They knocked. No answer. Rachel flashed her badge and entered. Inside, the house was eerie, neat, every item placed with precision. No dust, no clutter, just order. In the basement, they found it. A room sealed with a metal door. Locked. Rachel picked the lock. The smell hit first. Old paper, ink. The walls were covered with newspaper clippings, maps, photographs of crime scenes. Some were official. Others had never been released to the public. "This isn't a hobby," George said, voice shaking. "It's a shrine. In the center, a workbench. Pens, paper, cipher wheels, and a half-written letter. The game is nearly done. I wonder if you'll finally see the full picture before the final curtain drops." Among the items, Rachel found a tape recorder labeled Z Last Words. It clicked on with a high-pitched whine. Then the voice. "They say you die twice. Once when the breath leaves your body, and once when your name is spoken for the last time. I've avoided both. Until now. Let's see if you're as clever as you claim, Rachel." Rachel froze. He said her name. The letter wasn't just to the public. It was to her. Personal. The tape continued with a string of coordinates, numbers, and riddles. A new cipher. The last cipher. Took them days. When cracked, it read, "One more. Beneath the city, where the dead whisper." Rachel followed the clues to the abandoned BART tunnels beneath San Francisco. Forgotten passages once meant for expansion now sat dark and silent. She and a tactical team descended. Graffiti lined the walls. Strange symbols. Rats scurried. The air was damp. Then they found it. A chamber sealed, but not by force. It was crafted intentionally. Inside, a mannequin dressed in 1970s clothing. A mask, with the Zodiac symbol, covered its face. And next to it, a note. "She was the first. She'll be the last. I've always been among you." DNA swabs. Forensics. The mask, lined with sweat, hair. Samples were rushed to the lab. Days passed. Then the call. A match. The DNA matched samples from the original Zodiac letters. More shocking, it matched someone still alive. Francis Doyle. He was arrested without incident. Sitting calmly in his chair, dressed neatly, hands folded as if he'd been expecting them. Rachel sat across from him, face to face. "You ran for 50 years, she said. "Why stop now?" He smiled. "I didn't stop. You finally caught up." Francis confessed in cold, clinical detail. Names, locations, even victims they hadn't known about. But one thing haunted Rachel most. "Why me?" she asked. He leaned forward, eyes glassy. "Because you remind me of her." "Who?" He paused. "My sister. She was the first. I tried to protect her from the world. But it broke her. So I broke the world." Francis Doyle died in prison 6 months later. Stroke. No visitors. No remorse. But the letters didn't stop. A week after his death, another note arrived at Rachel's home. Typed, "Anonymous. You got one. But the game was never just mine." Rachel sat in silence. Was it a copycat? An apprentice? Partner? Or had she only scratched the surface? She looked out at the city. The fog swallowing the streets, the lights flickering like dying stars. The case was closed. But the story wasn't over. They say evil never truly dies. It waits. In silence. In shadows. The Zodiac's name will echo for generations, not just because of what he did, but because of what he represented. The terrifying idea that some monsters wear ordinary faces. So, did we finally crack the code? Or did we only catch the one who wanted to be found? Let us know what you think in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more Cold Case Chronicles. Until next time, stay safe. Stay curious.